Hey, what's up? Welcome back. Welcome to my house. Play that music so loud. We don't have to go out. Boom, shake, boom, shake, shake. Okay. Hi, I'm Annick, your favorite nutritionist, trainer, coach, author, and today we are going to be chatting about my top tips for athletic performance and having a winning mindset. So this is a really good topic because I work with a lot of athletes and people who are into their fitness in the gym. There are a few things to consider when wanting to build a stronger body, including our mindset. Like, what does it take to build a winning mindset? Let's say if you are an aspiring Olympian, or even if you are playing sports in your country or representing your country or league in any sort. What is the sport psychology impact of what does it take to keep that focus, for example? What is a good diet for performance, and does diet really impact elements of, let's say, stamina, muscle recovery, breathing, VO2 max, etc. And also, what are some tips to know to avoid in terms of diet trends if you are wanting to compete at that level, but also not just compete but place in top 3, hopefully also win. So a little story, I've worked with many athletes, and I've even worked with people who own sports teams, and I feel like it's such an exciting opportunity when I get to see players winning, either winning trophies, winning gold cups, winning competitions, whether it's regionally or internationally, winning even in business, in terms of negotiations. There's so much when it comes to sports and athleticism. What's also interesting is how this mindset in sports psychology and performance is sometimes very similar to that in the executive world. And when I coach my clients, we are coaching, even if they're not too sporty, but in academia, I work with people who are associated with #1 chess players in the world and who are total, I don't want to say poker players and winners, but it is very numerical. Don't want to say it's like mathletes vibe, but there is like mental fitness also to consider when it comes to winning and getting goals and sports psychology, which really excites me and lights me up. And I have a story which is interesting because I was invited once to a private villa with some athletes from Trinidad, inclusive of Brian Lara, Dwight York, Russell Latapy, and we were hanging out after the guys went to play golf, and Pep Guardiola was there with his wife and kids, and I got to meet them and shake their hands. And I'm a previous soccer football player, so I'm very passionate about sports still, and I'm only sharing this story because you just never know who you're going to meet in life. And I didn't take any photos, which sucks, but it was really an amazing experience to have been able to shake hands with legendary coaches who have transformed, Man City and so forth, after learning that you're in the presence of legends. And also the main conversations I actually had at that event were with some of the team members who are the top sports psychologists when it comes to performance, because we're talking all about the Netflix shows and Formula 1 and how you get to see how the athletes' minds work, and oh my god, it just lights me up. It gets me so excited. But anyways, so some tips here when it comes to you. I'm not sure how old you are, where you are in your sporting journey, but the first step when it comes to coaching, you may or may not have heard this before, it's all about visualization. And growing up, when I was an elite gymnast, I used to just close my eyes and envision me doing flips and sticking my landing and sticking all of my tumbles. And when I was in my free time, I would zone out into drifting into these envisioning practices, and I didn't really know what it was back then. But now, I do meditations and so forth, I can see how those two would be able to connect in terms of what you are trying to create as an outcome, and then when you're in the present moment, how that mental muscle training jumps into that real world scenario where you may not even have to think about it. It becomes such an automatic process that gets you that winning edge. And that's pretty exciting, because people were like, how are you always winning? And another tip when it comes to training and athletic performance is being humble, because I recommend people train with people in higher levels when they're at a lower level, because when you actually are competing in your level, you win a lot more if you're around those more professional level players or higher pros and so forth. For example, I'll give you a story. When I was training to be an elite gymnast, I spent most of my time training and hanging out with the older girls who were in higher levels than me, given that they would tolerate me being around, because I wanted to know what skills they were building and like how they were training. And when it came to like being in my age group, sometimes I wanted to jump up to their level, but I had to stay in my age group, and I got bored easily. But in the end it worked, because I was able to compete and perform at the levels that were required of me and represented my country really well. And I'm so proud and grateful. I'm still in the newspapers up in the gym where I used to train, and it's really cool. Other than that though, the main concept is, when it comes to visualizing, that's the first step if you're stuck on something, because I still use this tool today. And whether it's getting motivation to work out, or whether that's de-stressing and taking my mind off of work, I will allow my mind, time and space to visualize change. If I'm trying to change or make something better in my life, or desired outcome, or conversation I'm going to have for work, to do some delegating, and I have to gather my thoughts, gather that vision, gather all the tools necessary, and then I put myself in the game to play. And that's one of my top pro techniques that I train my clients who want to perform also in, which is my winning edge vibe that I like to do. And this is why I love practices like yoga and meditation, because it allows you to be in that space, to take all the distractions out, where you can be with yourself and your breath in that movement, and then zone in on what you really want to focus on. So when it comes to sports psychology and that mindset, that is one part of what is a good idea for you to develop as a skill if you really want to take your performance to that next level. Now, when we're thinking about a diet for athletes, this is interesting, because there are different types of sports, right? We can acknowledge there's long distance, there's marathons, and then there's sprinting, then there's jumping, and then there's weight stuff, and then we could go on. You have to be lightweight for some, heavyweight for others. Like, there's a whole range of sports out there. Yeah, so when it comes to a diet, there's no one size fits all when it comes to performing in sports. Usain Bolt, I saw him in a party once in Trinidad, and I had to take a picture with him because he's obviously a Caribbean superstar runner. But I've studied these people because I find it all so interesting and fascinating. And his diet consisted a lot of like whole foods from the earth, like cassavas and provisions and local like home cooked foods for the most part. You see him now, like when he travels and stuff, he's going for the McDonald's and he's going for the junk foods. And this is interesting because when we study athletes and performance, a lot of athletes will do that whole indulgent thing, don't get me wrong. But there's a difference between being in season and being off season. And when you were in training mode and competition mode, usually recovery is a very important part of this process, and diet plays a huge role in that. So the diet is like super clean and strict. In addition to that, we have this book that I read once, was on that tennis player Djokovic, and he worked with a nutritionist and got his diet into a really good place to perform to some of his best when he was doing his best, and his nutritionist got him on a gluten-free diet. So there are different types of diets for different styles of training and recovery. That's the main takeaway that I want you to have right now. When it comes to making sure that you get the right fuel for you, personalized nutrition really can make a difference in that edge. Working with things like your blood type, your training routines. I've built meal plans for marathon runners before, even new marathon runners who want to train in that space. I've built meal plans for horseback riding athletes. I've built meal plans for footballers, cricketers, hockey players. I've built plans for gymnasts, sailing, competing sports, and obviously gym goers as well. People who want to build muscle mass, vegan athletes and stuff as well. So it really is that the timing of what you eat and when you eat has that much of an impact on muscle mass recovery and your ability to generate and sustain strength or stamina based on what your sport is calling you for. Yes, a marathon runner's diet and recovery is going to be completely different to that of a sprinter, in addition to building contrast for something like a swimmer or another type of sport. It's exciting because obviously Olympics is this year in France and Paris, and talking about athletic nutrition is always going to be exciting for me. Some of the best sports supplements that I'm enjoying integrating, or I've enjoyed integrating into my life over the course of time, have always been the protein powders and shakes, vegan protein bars if I'm on the go for quick nutrition. Yes, we're always going to want food first, like no doubt, but I'm recommending supplements as you're on the go, you're out of your normal routine, you need a few things to kind of grab onto. Water, coconut water, drinks with electrolytes. There's some like gummies with B vitamins, there's electrolyte gummies, gums that a lot of people use, collagen to make sure that the joints are recovering well. And overall immune system, building up with zinc, for example. I mean, these are magnesium to prevent cramps. I mean, these are general, and I wouldn't recommend that anyone takes advice on supplements based on this general discussion that I'm making. You really want to work with someone and let them give you one-on-one recommendations based on like your blood work and your goals. These are, just a broad conversation of what a lot of athletes are supplementing with, in addition to things like omega-3s and so forth as well, which helps like the brain and also for anti-inflammatory for recovery, in addition to like turmeric and so forth. Okay, cool. So we covered right now some sports psychology mindsets for visualization and diet tips for having some athletic performance edges, and what types of sports require different types of diets. Now, the main takeaways that you can walk away from when it comes to diet recommendations is really to stick to whole foods as much as possible. Limiting those junk foods will help with recovery because your body will be working like a machine in those times of competitions, and you really want to burn everything that you're consuming as fuel, which means you want to have the right fuel coming in and the right fuel coming in for recovery also, to help with reduced muscle soreness in that repair process, as muscles are usually torn and stripped apart and put back together with different dietary supplements and routines. Some sports require higher intakes of protein than others, and some require higher levels of carbs than others due to their energy demands. So it really is quite individual what macronutrient proportions and components will be necessary for your particular sport goals and body weight. For example, some dancers, if they need a meal plan, their sport requires them to be extremely thin and tiny. So it's completely different if someone wants to do bodybuilding or squash or tennis or football, in terms of how those foods play a role in that body stature shaping to perform at the levels necessary for that given sport. Alright, cool. So we'll chat soon again with some more tips on different diet stuff that I love. I had this really good idea that I want to go through a salad that I'm loving for next time, like a really nice salad idea that we can talk about that boosts your mood. And so don't forget to like, share and subscribe. If you have any friends who are into athleticism or into this visualization stuff and sports psychology, definitely send this video along. It's been so much fun hanging out with you, and I can't wait for us to chat again soon. So don't forget, like, share and subscribe, and see you soon.